Welcome to the Transport Inquiry podcast. My name is Stephen Corcoran and joining me today is Mr. Jerry Brown-Sarre.
How are you, Stephen? Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Jerry. Excellent to have you here. Mr. Brown-Sarre and I are both protected by parliamentary privilege as we have submitted submissions to the current Senate inquiry, and as a committee document, we are protected by parliamentary privilege as a committee document and proceedings of Parliament. Our submissions are protected by parliamentary privilege. Parliamentary privilege refers to the special rights and immunities attached to the Parliament or its members and witnesses which are necessary for the discharge of parliamentary functions. Parliamentary privilege protects both parliamentarians and witnesses before committees from civil or criminal action in a court or tribunal in respect of what they have said or done in the course of parliamentary proceedings, and protects those proceedings themselves from challenge or question in a court or tribunal. Now, it is unlawful for anyone to threaten or disadvantage a witness on account of evidence given to a committee, and such action may be treated by the Senate as a contempt. It may also be a contempt to give false or misleading evidence to a committee.
Yeah, it's before we start.
Yes.
All my submissions are based on my opinions, based on my experience, knowledge. Not to say that out there driving trucks, there are better educated people than me and my seventh grade education.
Yes.
Notwithstanding 10 years of driving trucks for bosses, 50 years of operating trucks, a diploma in law, and a published author.
That's right. For those that don't know Jerry, he is a 60-year veteran. He's 77 years old.
Oh, don't say the age.
He's of course quite famous in the industry. He's inducted to the National Road Transport Hall of Fame. He was inducted in 2005, so he's been on the Hall of Fame for 15 years. Jerry started the fight for safe rates back in the year 2000, so it's now going on 20 years. Jerry was responsible mostly, in a large part, for the implementation of the Road Safety Remuneration Act 2012, and then he used that legislation to apply to the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal as an applicant under Intercapital Trucking, which is his transport company. Mr. Brown-Sarre's submission is number 9 on the Senate website for people that want to read it. There is a 231 paragraph submission, which is backed up by a 52 paragraph addendum.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, Mr. Brown-Sarre gave evidence to the committee. Those hearings are live streamed across the internet from the Parliament website, which is now part of Australian history, is available also on the Senate website, and we're going to make sure we put a link to that in the podcast description for people to go on and read not only Jerry's submission, but also read his evidence that he gave to the Senate committee, because it was only a couple of weeks ago. It's very relevant. It's happening right now. So Jerry, because he's such a kind man to me, he drove all the way up from Euroa in Victoria. How many k's is it, Jerry?
1,600 and something.
All right. So he drove that far, got up here yesterday, stayed the night so he can come and record this. I met Jerry in 2013, at the end of 2013, when I tabled my petition in Parliament in 2013, and I got the letters from the Transport Minister and the Workplace Relations Minister sending me to the RSRT, and I applied to the RSRT. There was only 2 applications in there. There was one from the TWU and there was one from you, Jerry. And so
That's right.
And they put my application into the second annual work program. So you were in there 2 years before I was in there. And so we're going to talk about that. You were there from the very beginning to the very end. You were at all the meetings that I went to and facilitated conferences and mentions and hearings in the Fair Work Commission. And so don't just take my word for it. Jerry was there as well. And there's 3 other guys that were there as well. There was Robert Mitchell, Graham Garner, and Stephen Malika. I haven't gone into a lot of the things that you've done. Jerry had a sprint car, a speedway car. He's a racer. He's done all sorts of things. He's got patents on trailers. He He brought in 45-foot trailers into Australia, people. Like, he is responsible. And so if you want trailer length laws, like this is the guy. He knows he's the professor of our industry in a lot of ways.
No, well, the 45-foot trailers came about because I wanted a 45-foot trailer and no one had built it. So I checked the law, and the law left a loophole.
Yep.
I found the loophole. I found a company to build me a 45-foot trailer.
Yep. And
for 6 years, I had the only legal 45-foot fridge van in Australia.
Yep.
Which was very advantage to me.
Yep. So all of these experiences, he hasn't just mucked around with the political side of it and writing these very long submissions to multiple inquiries, because, I mean, this inquiry that through the Senate now, you've also submitted to the National Transport Commission inquiry with probably another 300 paragraphs.
What a few.
And then you've also submitted to the review into the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator. You had 45 minutes in front of the committee and you ran out of time. Like, how do you condense 60 years down into 45 minutes?
You don't. You do what you can, but you got to. Nothing will change unless people change it. Yep. So if you don't have your say and have your point of view, whether anyone agrees is irrelevant. Yep. You have your point of view, you put it in writing, you give it to the legislators, and they either take it out the toilet or they read it. Hopefully they read it, both the Senate documents and the NTC documents, because it affects this industry.
Whether or not there's a dodgy practice going on, or whether or not your company is 100% compliant and you are 100% compliant, this Senate inquiry needs to see both sides, either end of the spectrum. They need to see the absolute best of the best, like the Hall of Fame and Kenworth Dealer Hall of Fame, down to the 457 drivers driving piece of crap trucks and killing families out on the highway, cutting rates. So they need to see the whole bit.
Well, yeah, the good points and the bad points has had changed law.
Yep.
But you got to disclose to somebody what they are. Politicians, whether they act on something is irrelevant. But if they don't know, they're never going to act.
What I'm trying to do with the industry veterans is to get a collaborative of their voices together where they're not getting shouted over. So Tony Fulton had his conversation. You're going to have your conversation, and all these other submissioners, of inviting them to come along and add to their already good work. Rod Hennefy, everyone in the industry knows Rod. He tries to bring this industry into a positive light in a lot of different ways. And he went first at the meeting on the 22nd in Albury. He was the very first submissioner to give evidence to the inquiry. Right, I'm going to quote what Rod Hennefy said, and it's on Hansard for those who want to check that what I'm saying is true. He said a lot, but he said I'm quoting Rod Hennefy. He said, in 2003, I went to Canberra for the National Road Safety Inquiry. There were 33 recommendations from that inquiry, of which I had a hand in 5. End quote. Now, let's just say that this inquiry has 33 recommendations in it and they implement 5. I mean, Rod just had a hand in 5, but let's just say we come up with 33 great recommendations and they only implement 5. It's still worth doing, even if they only implement 1. But as long as there's some kind of raising of industry standards or conditions, I'm all for it. And if it takes Rod from 2003 and you from 2000 and me from 2012 and Tony Fulton from 2004 and all these other guys and ladies, and you show how much experience and how much change they want to bring, so a collective of those voices, it has great strength. Now, I'll go on because Rod says a lot of good things, right? So you can agree or not. Now, he said, I'm quoting Rod Hennefy again, he said that while he was speaking to a police officer, how many trucks did you drug test, was the question. He said, the policeman answers, 1,203, and there was 1 positive test from a truck driver, end quote. Here's a major safety campaigner talking to, I think it's the head of the highway, Arana District High Patroller in Dubbo, about 1,200 tests for one positive. This is, our industry points out the bad guys. We actively try and get rid of the bad guys like that.
Yeah.
So it's not like the industry doesn't try and clean itself up from the inside all times. Tony's mentioned it, that all the people he knows are compliant with all these laws. Like, you've watched it come in from the very start, or before road tax and all that kind of stuff. When I mentioned that the good work that Rod's doing and you've done in that, how come they just can't fix it? Why is it now 20 years later and he's still fighting to get parking bays?
Well, he's a trier. He's a persistent trier. But the government won't accept that what they're doing now isn't working. You know, in the last 38 years, 9,074 people killed in truck accidents.
Yeah. Well, it's more than that now.
Well, that's only from June.
Yeah.
I guarantee in the last 4 months there's another 50, the way I've been reading the news. Yeah. But they're set in their ways of how they think they're going to control it. And they think there's enough parking bays. In fact, they're taking them out in Victoria as we speak, putting this wire barriers up and taking out all the old parking bays we've had for 50 years. They're gone. And I think Rod even agrees with me. We need parking bays every 25 k's. Yeah. Anyone knows when you're driving a truck in a foggy night and your eyes are saying, I need to get out of this fog. And every parking bay you come to is full. And the worst thing about it, once you say to your mind, I need to stop, and you can't stop, it works overtime in your mind because your mind's telling you got to stop. So and you can't find parking bay.
That's right.
That's crucial.
Well, I mean, the signs, the education that they put out there is wake up to the signs of fatigue. So you're fatigued, you're fatigued, you've made the decision you're fatigued, you need to stop, and then there's nowhere to stop.
That's it. So that's the inability of government to, which part of my whole belief is the irregular law in this country.
Don't worry, it's not a belief, it's the actual truth.
Well, I know it's the truth.
Okay, I want to mention what you said exactly to the committee. It should be great for everyone. Right? If I'd say it in a bit more of a tone, everyone will stay awake. All right. So the chair says, welcome, do you have any comments? And you said, I'm trying to help the industry. I'm a 60-year veteran of the industry. And he says, that you are. Thanks for being here. I know that the work you've been doing around the industry. And then you went on to just say you had a preamble, which was all right for us who had to listen to it over the internet. Couldn't be there. But he went on to say that the number he wants for everyone to remember is the 9,074. And because that's how many people have died in truck accidents from 1981 to 2019. So you don't have to take my word for it. This is Jerry's evidence and he's protected by parliamentary privilege. If you've got other evidence, bring it forward. Let's see. But he can break it down. This is the important bit. 564 killed since the repeal of the RSRT in 2016. 1,450 killed from 2006 to 2010. 1,236 dead from 2011 to 2016. And 5,824 dead in the 24 years prior to 2004. So he goes to 980. That's a long time ago. Yeah. But I mean, it's probably, that's my lifetime. So,
well, they're the facts.
Okay, so 9,074 killed in my lifetime, and you've been driving twice as long as I've been alive.
I'm just lucky I'm not one of the 9,000.
Well, so am I. I mean, when we were at RSRT together, I was hospitalised twice from truck crashes that weren't my fault.
Yeah, it's a dangerous. It's known as a dangerous industry in Australia, and it is.
Yeah. All right. So then you go on to say. So if you add up the 564 since 2016 and the 1,450 and the 1,236 and the 5,824 is how you get to that 9,074 number.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, if anyone wants to go and have a look at the Safe Work Australia submission, they will say that your figures are grossly inflated. And they will say that only 196 truck drivers have been killed in the previous 4 years.
Well, they should go to the Australian Bureau of Statistics pages. That's what you get the right figures.
Okay.
No.
But
we presume they're the right figures. We don't know.
Well,
no one tells us.
I mean, I can tell you that they're not. In the Safe Work Australia report, I can tell you that they're not, because under their policy, if you go into their policies, it actually says, gives them immunities from actually showing the correct figures. It depends on where you die and how you die as to whether or not you will be put in the statistics at all. It can take, under their own policy, it can take 6 months from when you die to be put on the website, if at all. And the if at all reason, right, and when I question, well, what does if at all mean? Well, it just means that if a few slip through the crack, they slip through the crack and they don't really need to be counted.
Yeah, well, that's a government crap.
Okay, well, that's their policy. People can go and read it. It's not my policy. I'm just repeating it. A lot of people don't know it. I pointed it out in my submission that it is not mandatory to report truck driver deaths. It's not mandatory to calculate them.
Only got to listen to the news and read the paper. My figures for this year, just by watching the news, we had to be up over the 100 already this year.
Well, there was 39 truck drivers killed in Victoria this year so far.
And there was 47 in New South Wales last time.
So then you've got 80 just there.
And we don't forget and other states, and there been some bad ones in other states.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the numbers, if you want to check it, but it really becomes.
I encourage people to check. Go and have a look, and please. In the last episode, I forgot to shout out the email address, transportinquirypodcast@gmail.com. If you have a comment, if you would like to interact, you have something you'd like us to talk about in any of the submissions, if you want to write your own submission, if you've written one and it's not published yet, send us an email. Let's see, transportinquirypodcast@gmail.com. After Rod Hannafy spoke, which was very good. Everyone should read Rod's transcript.
He's a try. He's consistent.
He's very good. He's from Dubbo, so I'm a Dubbo boy. So.
Oh, you're going to back him because you're a Dubbo bloke.
Well, of course.
Good on you.
That's right. I mean, Rod Pillin's a great bloke. I've known Rod since I was 16. So, a lot of the drivers out there that still work there know me. So it's very strange. But anyway, we'll keep going because we'll get on to what people probably really want to know. Is like you got this Road Safety Remuneration Act in 2012. You had a lot to do with it, right? Like it had reports from Professor Michael Quinlan and all that kind of stuff to get it over the line. And I think Brian Turpie had something to do with getting, what's that politician's name, getting his vote, Rob Oakeshott. Brian Turpie helped get Rob Oakeshott's vote to get the RSRT in, right? It was a collaborative of veterans, you and all these outside pressures that brought about the RSRT in the first place in 2012, right?
Yeah.
Remember that? So then to get that in and go to all those meetings, right, where you'd fly in or drive in from Melbourne and I'd fly in and we'd have to go to these conferences and it's you and me, it's Melika and Mitchell and Garner and the TWU on one side of the table, and then there's like 9 or 11 barristers on the other side of the table.
Yeah, pretty daunting. It was at the time. They treated us like crap.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know who we were, didn't know what we were doing there.
Yeah.
Actually said to him the first day, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
I said, we're here to represent the independent contractors.
Yeah.
Who said? I said, we said. We're not waiting for the TWU to do it for us.
Mm.
Oh. And they asked the committee chair, can they be here? Are they qualified? Anyone can come. Mm. So they were surprised to see us.
Yeah, well, it was all of those facilitated conferences were open to anyone. I promoted it. All the other guys promoted it. Every facilitated conference held around Australia, we promoted it on Facebook and all kinds of things. We were on the radio. Remember, we were on the late night radio, like urging drivers to please come to these meetings and be involved. So in 2014, we got Road Safety Remuneration Order number 1, right?
That's right.
Now, it took you you and Melika 7 years to bring in safe driving plans, right? In the fashion that yous wanted them, because
The ones they had before were just
Yeah,
useless. The
that's
ones the
right.
companies were doing, they were just crap.
Yep. Yeah. So in the first road safety remuneration order, you made sure that the drivers were protected by these safe driving plans and had their rights and responsibilities. And
Reasonable.
That was
reasonable
you.
plans.
That was you and Melliker and Mitchell and Garner.
That's right.
That's right. You four guys got those in, and you mandated. You pushed the mandate for mandatory drug and alcohol policies at transport companies as being required.
Mandatory.
Yep.
30-day payments was mandatory.
Yep. And no, hang on, not in road safety remuneration order number 1. In road safety, road safety remuneration order number 1 gave drivers their contracts. Which set out all your rights and responsibilities.
Whistleblower protection.
Yep. Yep.
It was a pretty good document.
Yep.
It was a good starter.
Yep. And it went for 2 years. No one said a word, did they?
No.
The industry took it up, and if you actually look at the figures, the fatality figures went down.
On that year.
The implementation of the road safety remuneration order number 1, like the implementation of the drug and alcohol policies, the implementation of the driver contracts, setting out their rights and responsibilities and also their pay and stuff like that. And the, going forward.
It was a good document. It was a good order.
It gave drivers
It was
their
that good an
rights.
order that after they repealed it, one very intelligent...
Well, hang on, let's keep going because we'll get to the repeal. Let's not jump ahead to the repeal yet.
Okay,
we'll keep going,
Okay.
right? Because so we've taken everyone back to 2012, and we got the legislation in through Parliament, all right? Now, when we were at Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal, 2013, right? There was an election, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Labor got kicked out,
Yeah.
and the Liberal government got voted in. Now, Tony Abbott was the Prime Minister.
First words he said, get rid of RSRT.
No, Tony Abbott didn't touch the RSRT.
He wanted it
If
gone.
you remember, he had the opportunity to, and he actually supported truck drivers. He drove one of Nolan's down the Pacific Highway.
I did the promotion, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, even if, let's just say that it was just a big setup and he only had, one box of something on that wasn't express, right? Let's just say that it was all a show. But he did have a crack. He went down there, he slept in the truck overnight. And, I'm not a Tony Abbott fan at all. But at least he did it, and he didn't repeal the RSRT. He let us have it.
No, but the only reason the pressure was not to get rid of it yet.
But, I mean, he understood what the work of the tribunal was doing, right? Because they had that report done, right? Remember, and Senator Eric Abetz from Tasmania was given the report, and they said, we're looking into the report, we'll release the report, and they never, because it was an outside document, like through KPMG or something like that.
That's
It wasn't a Senate document or a House of Representatives document. They never had to release it. They always threatened to release it, that it had this information that they were going to use to repeal the act, right? But they never used that. What they did is, so we'll go into 2014 and 15, right? Because after we got Road Safety Remuneration Order number 1, right, we went into the 3rd annual work program. Remember that?
That's right.
Now, again, how many facilitated conferences do you think we went to in 2014?
I lost count.
15?
Lost count.
It was at least 20.
Every couple of months there was something.
And there was a few times when they would run consecutive days, like they would have a meeting all day Tuesday and all day Wednesday.
Yeah, we went to Sydney 2 or 3 days, meetings, yeah.
Yep.
If you didn't go, if you missed a meeting,
Yep.
those other people would just have a meeting on their own.
Yep.
And they wouldn't tell you what they were doing.
Now,
We found that out all the time. They just have secret meetings.
that's right. There was several times when we turned up.
It was decided last week
Yeah.
at a meeting.
Yeah.
Who was there? Well, we were there. Why didn't you tell us? Oh, nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
These business groups, let's rattle them off. You want to go through the acronyms? There's AIG, the Australian Industry Group.
Yeah.
There's NatRoad.
Yeah, RTO.
Yeah. RTO.
Australian
The Australian Federation of Employers.
Yeah, there was
There was the Japanese Postal Service, which is green and now called Toll. and there was Lynn Fox and Borrell and the Master Builders Association and the Chamber of Commerce.
Don't know how they got involved in transport, the Master Builders.
Woolworths. There was Woolworths and Coles.
Woolworths were under the same representative, though.
No, they each had their own barristers.
No.
Woolworths had their own barrister in Jauncey, and Coles had their own.
He represented the industry. Jauncey represented the supply chain.
Well, let's just
For
say.
want of a better word, supply chain.
Well, I'm one link. I'll represent the whole chain. How's that?
Yeah, okay.
Whether he's Woolworths or whether he's just the letter W, he was one voice there, and we had our fair hearings, I thought, through Jennifer Acton and Deputy President Ashbury. I think they gave us fair hearings.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they looked after us. We got our say.
I don't think they looked after us. I think they gave us fair hearings because...
no, I got fair hearings. I thought they looked after us.
I mean, a lot of people...
Not so much Ashbury, but Acton, for sure.
No, do you remember Ashbury she was quite professional in the way that she ran those.
Yeah, to a point. I agree with it to a point.
Well,
I had a few complaints about that.
Well, you didn't have the barrister from Toll yelling at you, pointing at you, or getting all aggro.
You take that with a medal of honour because
I thought it was great
to get him upset.
Oh yeah,
we got him upset quite often.
He'd flick his switch and away he'd go.
Yeah, no, that was you take that. You had to win that day.
Yeah, I think it was like 6 meetings in a row we went to, and Lynn Fox's barrister had said he was going to provide this evidence. Remember? We're going to bring it next time. Next time. And
they were going to produce their operating costs.
Yeah, they're going to produce all this stuff. And then finally, I lost my cool. And in front of the president, I said, "Well, if they're not going to provide their evidence, what are they doing here? They should just leave." And he got up and he called me something. Yeah. And he threatened to walk out. And I was having a great time. I thought it was great. I thought finally we're going to get some action in here when these guys stop blocking everything that we're doing. Because that's all they did. Everything that we did, there was 9 barristers that had, no, hang on, no, we've got to stop this.
Yeah, no, it was one-sided. And if we hadn't have been there, an order would have been made for Christ knows what, because the TW would have agreed to anything.
Yeah. Well,
us being there made the TW pull back.
Yeah.
And get a conversation at least.
Yeah.
So 2014, when we did the first cost model, and it was all drafted up for every combination, and it was presented around the
industry.
Is
that the one that
Tim Squires set up?
Took around through the industry and
a good document. It costed.
Sorry for those that don't know, Tim Squires was the industry representative that sat on the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal.
Yeah, that's right. So he took it around the shop that I read in the whole industry, and they said, we accept it. Mm-hmm. When we gave it before Acton to tell her that, because she was getting very frustrated.
That we had an agreement across the industry.
And she said, you've got an agreement. Yeah. Thank good. And then the supply chain got up and said, we don't agree with those costs. Yeah. So she said, well, I've had enough of this. You can't do it.
We'll do it.
We'll do our own costings.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had 3 goes at it, remember? They did Transeco. They had costings done. The union, the TW had costings done through Transeco, and then that was all, facilitated meetings and conferences and hearings and all over that.
That's right.
And then the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal engaged KPMG, who the government used for all their reports, to come up with a rate and a rate calculator and an alternative rates method.
Yeah. We didn't agree to it.
No.
But we accepted it.
Yeah.
We knew we could change it later on.
Yeah. Because there was under the conditions, what conditions did you need to adjust the rate?
To adjust the rate?
Yeah.
We just had to produce costs.
No, so say the rate was $1 a kilometre, just say, right, and the fuel rose today by 5 cents a litre. How long?
30 days.
You would only need 30 days to get an application, or 30 days to have the rate adjust?
No, 30 days for application. And
to have the rate adjust.
To go to appeal.
Okay.
And then the tribunal would then adjust it accordingly.
Okay.
So it had to be a rise of 4 cents.
Yep.
Or a drop of 4 cents. It went either way. rise or fall of 4 cents,
Okay.
and 30 days notice.
Okay, so let's just say, right, now the 4th annual work program was supposed to morph into the 5th annual work program and look into the ports and wharf sector. Now, when
They swapped it around.
but that's what they were going to do.
Yeah.
Now, shortly after the death of the RSRT, all the charges at the ports and wharf went up.
Yeah.
Now, and then there was a big outcry in the media that they couldn't pass these costs on. Now, that would have been sorted by the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal.
All in the power. Yeah. All in the power. It was its own tribunal. Mm-hmm. You had a problem, you made a submission, you took it to the board.
Who could apply for a Road Safety Remuneration order? Anyone?
And once the order was made, once you wanted an application to change it, any person could make the order.
So as long as you were covered by the Road Safety Remuneration Act, which I was as an employee, right? Because I've never owned a truck. I'm just an employee driver. And I was covered by the Act to apply for a road safety order. So I did, and I was the only employee driver to apply. Now, Pauline Hanson said in the Senate just a couple of nights ago that there's 208,900 truckies in Australia and 45,000 coaches. Right? So there's 263,000 heavy vehicle operators professionally in Australia, right? And probably half a dozen know the story we're talking about now, because there's you four and me, Frank Black. That's it. That know what really went on. So when it went down and you got the rates order and it all came out and the union messed it all up, right? And we lost it. Like, there was a High Court challenge. We won the High Court challenge, and as soon as the High Court challenge was won, the Road Safety Remuneration Order number 2, the one about rates, became law instantly, didn't it?
That's right. Yeah, it was law for 3 months.
Okay, so we'll go on. After Rod Hannafy spoke on Friday the 22nd of November, Gordon McKinlay gave his evidence to the inquiry, and I'm going to read what he had to say. Where are we? Now, Mr. McKinlay says, 3 years ago, I fought vehemently against the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal. I led a campaign to have that abolished. Then he goes on to say that he didn't partake in the RSRT at all because he thought it was a crazy idea to pay people a minimum rate. And it was because of the nuts and bolts of the particular legislation, but that he's not going to go into it. So in an end quote, right? So he says that he fought against it even though he had nothing to do with it, but he thought it was a good idea, right? Because he goes on to say, this is quoting him, Gordon McKinlay, we all have our views on that and whatever, end quote.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a view on it, but we'll go on it. We'll keep going. To quote Gordon McKinlay again, he says, I still remember when I first read about that, I thought, that's a great idea. Recognising we should get paid a minimum to do the job. End quote. What do you reckon about that, Jerry?
Well, let me say this.
Yeah. Be careful.
Let me say this. A lot of people at the time didn't take the trouble to read the order.
Absolutely.
Or the notice, which was a 40-page document, to understand it.
Yep.
Everybody said it won't work.
Yep.
But they were convinced why it won't work because of the actions taken by the members, the corporate members of NatRoad, who, I can tell you now, in a hallway discussion overheard by us, where they conspired to pattern how to stop it working, which was anyone who's known a driver, don't load him this week.
Yeah.
We'll do that for 3 or 4 weeks. They'll give it the bullet.
But so in Road Safety Remuneration Order number 2, there was protections for owner drivers and contractors against adverse action and adverse conduct, was there not?
Oh, yeah, that was part of it. Yeah, that was crucial.
So it would have been an offence for toll or any contractor. It would have been an offence for any company to refuse to load
That's right.
because of the rate. And you could sue them. Like if you're an owner-driver.
Well, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't sue them. You'd just make a complaint to the
That's
tribunal.
right. Well, it's the same as suing them. Putting the RSRT on them is going to give them hassles. It's a lot more hassles than just giving you a load.
Suing says lawyers, and the average truck owner there, he ain't got the money to even talk to a lawyer.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it cost them $1? They make a complaint to the tribunal under adverse protection that for instance, didn't load me. Because of the rates of the conspiracy between them.
because of the rates order. We don't want to pay that rate.
Put anything on it. But the refusal to load them because of that was good enough to get an order against them.
That's right. So there would have been a penalty.
Yeah, it only lasted 2 weeks. To my knowledge, there's only 5 guys who were refused loading.
Yeah,
and that set the panic off.
Yeah.
You must remember, it's what common sense tells you, right? To be effective, if they'd have stopped 1,000 trucks from loading that first couple of weeks, just think of the ramifications.
Oh, look,
that's 1,000 loads sitting on a dock that they're going to try and find somebody to move.
Yeah,
but they don't own the freight.
No.
The transport company is in between the customer. The customer says, "Why is my freight got there?" Oh, we don't want to put on a subcontractor.
Yeah.
Well, we don't care how you load it, but get my freight there. It would have lasted matter of weeks.
Yeah.
But no, they couldn't see it.
Well, I mean, truck drivers and owner drivers had never been given any power before, and these documents that were supported by legislation were huge power against these corporations. And so the corporations and Malcolm Turnbull and with Gordon McKinley at the head of his convoy to Canberra with all these guys saying, that they don't want to go out of work. All right? Now we'll go on to what Gordo has to say. Now it turns out that Gordo doesn't have his trucks anymore, and he's said that in his evidence. He said, I tell you what the result was. I'll quote Gordon McKinley. He says, I tell you what the result was. I sold the trucks. That's what the result was. I didn't sell the trucks because I didn't love trucks anymore. I didn't sell the trucks because I didn't want to be in the transport game anymore. I'm still in transport. I sold them because of the 2 things that are very hard to control, the cost of fuel and the driver, end quote.
That deal...
Hang on. Is he right, though? It's hard to control the cost of fuel and your driver. Isn't the award? How is that? The award isn't a fluctuating price.
Well, the award
is set by the award.
The driver's award is set, whatever happens.
So the only cost increases if the driver actually does work, anything more than the award, because he's entitled to the award, right? It's $796 a week or whatever it is, right, for your 40 hours. But anything over those 40 hours or the 796 in kilometres, right, is extra. That's what he's saying. He can afford the 800, but anything over that he can't.
Yeah, but you don't. That's not debatable. That's the law.
No, but he says, right, his evidence is that the 2 things that are hard to control is fuel.
Well, you got no control
and
over fuel.
wages.
You got no control over fuel.
Okay,
it is what it is.
Yeah. But, I mean, you have to fuel the truck. It's going to cost you money.
And if the rate you're getting paid doesn't pay you enough, you're in trouble.
But, I mean, if your profit margin is your fuel rebate, then you're in trouble. But then he goes on to say, right, okay, so the driver's wages are a flexibility now, right, under what he said, right? So I'll go back to quote Gordo, right? Now Gordo says, I was happy to sell it to him, right? Because if he wants to drive flat out and burn fuel like it's going out of fashion, it comes out of his pocket, not mine, right? He covers his wages and all of that, right? So the driver's paying for the fuel and his own wages. Bring your own wages to Gordo's.
That's it. It's a scam. It's a scam deal.
He says he covers his wages and all that. They're the things that don't get fixed up, end quote. So what he's saying is the wages don't get fixed up. So if you put it on the driver, well, it's his drama, not mine, right? And then he goes on to say, so I'll requote, every year the wages go up. Every year the fuel goes up. They're knocking, right? Then he says they're knocking money off from their drivers every day to prop their business up. and I have to compete against that as an operator. I'm
who's
guessing
they?
he's saying
Who's
they. I don't know.
Everybody else.
I guess so.
Well, that's transport.
It's a huge generalisation, but let's just say that it's true that there's companies out there ripping drivers
they do.
off.
It's common knowledge.
All right, it's common knowledge. Well, let's with the evidence. Let's see the Senate get the evidence.
But it's what you do. You do a survey, and you soon find out who's paying, who's not paying.
Right. A survey.
There's a company running B-double drivers for 35 cents a K.
Well, here's the thing about this inquiry,
You've
right?
got to wear a turban.
That's a rumour. That's a rumour. Let's see evidence. I don't want a poll. I don't want, a thing. Let's have evidence.
Maybe Fair Work should investigate. Do you think that?
Maybe, I do.
Have they got any investigators?
No.
So what do they do? They're a toothless tiger.
Probably.
They've got no investigators.
I don't know. Well, they can't investigate Gordo because we'll go on about Gordo hasn't finished talking yet. All right, before we go on about Fair Work Australia. All right, now he says, after about how he's competing, right, that he's happy to sell it to his driver and make his driver pay his own wages and the fuel, right, and that the driver is a tow hauler. So he's paying him a premium to tow his trailer as well. So it's Gordo's trailer and freight that he's organising for the driver. He sold a truck to that's paying his own fuel and wages. So how much cut is Gordo taking out for the trailer and organise the freight?
Pick a figure.
But, I mean, if Gordo says he can't make money paying the driver, how is he taking money for the trailer and there's money left over for the driver?
He wants the driver to get what's left, which will be nothing.
No, but shouldn't the driver be tipping money in?
Well, he probably is. If Gordo can't make it pay, the driver's not going to make it pay.
All right. But this is okay. So
that goes back to freight rates.
How does it make you feel, right, that he got to speak before you? He went and say, I was the one that had it all abolished, and now he's going on, we need protections and we need minimum rates.
What comes around comes around, A bit karma. That does not worry me.
But I appreciate Gordo telling the truth, right, about his dodgy business practices and ripping off his driver, right? Let's just face it. That's the truth. He made it. That's what he said. I'm not making up any crap about him. That's the truth. He told it. Said it to the Senate.
The deal's illegal.
Well, whether it's illegal or not, it's not. It doesn't matter. It's evidence to the inquiry.
It doesn't matter. But it might be. But that's what he's saying is legal under the inquiry.
Now
but the actual conduct is not legal.
Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know.
It's got nothing to do with the Senate.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just point out that Gordo is also the vice president of the National Road Freighters Association, right? Now, at the time, during the RSRT, right, I was a paid member of the NRFA, right? And so was Graham Garner. Remember that?
You never told me that. I would have thrown you out.
Well,
I knew Graham was, but he only lasted one meeting and he resigned.
That's right. Now, me and Graham were up at the Alice Springs National Road Transport Hall of Fame, right? The NRFA had their annual general meeting up there when the truck driver reunion was on, right? And so I was up there and ran into Graham and all that. And so I joined the NRFA, right? Because I was thinking, if I'm in the union, if I'm in the NRFA, if I'm in the LDA, if I'm in all these groups, right, I'm going to have all this representation, right? But it doesn't work like that. Look, if you go and join 7 representative groups or associations, you don't get 7 voices that are all saying the same thing.
No,
you're getting 7 associations saying the other 6 are shit.
Yeah.
No. And don't listen to them. I'm the one that's right.
Graham came to see, he heard stories, and he came to see what the stories were. And when he got there, he said, this is not what I was told, so he resigned.
Yeah.
Once he realised that we were there looking after his interests.
Yeah. Well,
and he joined us.
When the rates order came out in 2016, right, and your Intercapital Trucking is on the front cover and my name's on the front cover, right, because we're applicants, we made up made up the order. Now, everyone thought that you and I were somehow personally responsible for all of it, right?
That's the mentality.
And like Gordo attacked me on the social media and, you don't even own a truck. What would you know? And what am I going to tell my kids? And what about all these 30,000 owner drivers out of work, right? How many insolvencies has there been? Like 1,300 insolvencies since the RSRT?
No, it's two different things. Insolvency since now, there's been over 2,000 companies gone broke, and we're talking big companies.
Yeah, but what about the ones that had just shut up shop before they went insolvent, so they weren't breaking the law?
Oh well, you wouldn't know.
Like mills.
You wouldn't know. They're just good business practice.
Yeah, well, mills shut down before they had to go into this crazy system.
They did the figures and said, time to go.
Yeah, we can't do it. And they went for like 100 years or something, no?
Good company.
Yeah, perfect. I wanted to work there as a kid. I thought, how great
they would have been protected under the RSRT.
Well, but Gordo got it thrown out. Now, if you read the ATA submission on the website, right? Australian Trucking Association.
Look at their 50th anniversary thing blog. We got rid of the RSRT.
They're proud. They are so proud of lowering industry standards.
They're like Goody. They're like Gordo.
Yeah.
They're proud.
Like they give themselves a massive pat on the back for lowering industry standards, decreasing best practices, and killing drivers. Like when you remove those safety orders,
a lot of them.
Like they are directly responsible. The ATA, Gordo, Nat Road, all these ones that are just against any raising of industry standards unless it suits their business exactly, they're scumbags, eh?
That's right. Look, you must remember the 1,230 members of Nat Road.
Yeah.
Out of that, they were 1,100 were corporate members from big companies to small companies. Yeah. That's their membership.
Yeah.
They get 100-odd owner drivers who they sucked up to,
yeah.
But their basic membership is companies.
Yeah. For people that don't understand the whole politics behind it, right, you've got the Australian Logistics Council, right, the ALC.
That's right.
Right? And then you've got the National Transport Commission.
That's another group for supply chain.
Okay. It's only a group for supply chain, but they have a massive amount of power.
Too much power.
They have a massive amount of power. If you look on the Australian ALC or Australian Logistics Council and have a look at who the members are, then you'll see why they've got so much power and behind the scenes. And like when we were at RSRT, even though there was a barrister for Toll and a barrister for Linfox, they're also covered by the Australian Federation of Employers because Toll's part of them and Linfox is part of them. So there's 3 barristers. That's right. And then they're part of the Australian Industry Group, so there's 4 barristers. And they're also part of the Chamber of Commerce, so they've got 5 barristers.
That's right.
All right. Now, you're not a lawyer.
No.
I'm not a lawyer. How much did it piss them off, eh?
I would annoy them. It annoyed them big time.
Like when I'm throwing, like the figures in their face. Like we'd go to the meeting and it'd be a month since the last meeting and they'd all get their say and then they'd let me talk last. Remember?
That's right.
And I'd be like, well, since we were here last time and I said there was 47 guys killed, now there's 75 killed. And they'd all look at me and go, oh, shit, what do we say now?
No, they had no answers to facts.
They didn't give one iota of care, did they?
No, they didn't get. And whilst in the finish, Toll and Linfox both agreed to me, or to us actually, that they needed the order. Yeah. Because they needed to control the big companies. I mean, you had Mars out there saying, you want to cart Mars products? It's 120-day payment terms. Yeah. Know who you are. That's it. That's our payment terms. Mm-hmm. So all those companies carting Mars products, and there's a lot out of it, they had to go under that payment system. That's the payment they had to agree to. Well, plus other things, we did other stuff, but that was their payment thing, which the big company said they couldn't survive under that. Yeah. But they needed a law to bring Mars back to the table and say, oh, yeah, it'll be 30 days. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right, is at the end of the 22 November meeting, right, one of the last people to speak to give evidence was Scott Finnimore, Ron Finnimore's son. Oh, yeah. Now, apparently he took the time out of his day. I think he manages 1,000 trucks, is that right? Oh, it's a lot. 700 or trucks, right? Now, just happened to be able to take his time off in the busiest time of the year for his 800 trucks or whatever that he manages to come down and tell the Senate that they don't deal with anyone that has more than 30-day payment. Now, that is a strategic move from ATA and Nat Road because doesn't Ron Finnimore sit on the board of ATA? I don't think so anymore. I don't think so. I think he did. He did. And then Scott Finnimore's on the board of Nat Road. Oh, that could be right, yeah. So you can see that how
father and son could possibly have the ATA push 30 days, have Nat Road push 30 days, and then he comes on as Scott from Finneymores saying that he's taking the time out of his day and they only work with 30-day payments.
But they've had to. I mean, when Finneymore came back out of the ashes the last time.
Well, I mean, he didn't come out of the ashes because he made a lot of money when he sold it to Toll.
But he said, from now on, I'll only work for companies who will pay me my terms.
And that's fair enough too.
That's what he said. I remember it was a public statement he made. And good luck to him.
I mean, he's a smart man. And I've met Ron. When he bought Lewington's at the end of their run, right, and what he's done with Ron Finneymore now, it's the same thing of what he did with Finneymores when I was a kid. The way he built it up from Finneymores to sell it to Toll, to go through his process and then have Lewington's go for sale at the time that he was able to come back into the transport industry. Mm. I mean, Finneymores is a great outfit. They've got probably a really high standard. All their trucks are brand new, like the Australian National
wouldn't you
fleets.
love to be the fly on the wall that a couple of weeks ago when one of his trucks got grounded and then in Melbourne for unroadworthy? Yeah, you'd love to be a fly on the wall that day.
But I mean, that's the thing about having a successful program.
I make that point because it doesn't mean to say every truck out there is roadworthy, whether it's owned by a multi-truck company or not. So everyone has the problem. That was
and look,
pretty deflating.
I mean, I'm a mechanic by trade. You're a mechanic. Some things wear out very quickly. They can be fine in the morning and broken in the afternoon.
It was a ball tyre.
Yeah, a ball tyre. There you go.
That's it. That's okay. Victoria these days.
Out of 30 tyres on the vehicle, one of them was stuffed.
Well, that's all it takes. Is that roadworthy? That's the law.
And that's fair enough too. But that's not the issue that we're talking about. Is the inquiry and the evidence given into the inquiry. Yeah, everyone knows that a light out or a tyre or whatever is, sure, it's a misdemeanor. And they're very bad, very naughty. Let's make sure the industry never has any of those. But because they can crack down very hard on those, but they can't crack down on these drivers getting killed.
No, that's the important issue. That's why you've got to follow on with that, because that's why under the NHVA and TC rule orders is everything's got to go back to risk based. That's what we're promoting. No matter what offence it is, what misdemeanor, if it's got to be risk, so it's got to show it's a risk to the general public before it can be classed as a punishable offence. That's what we're aiming for. So that brings everything back. So one tyre is not a severe risk. It's a tyre. It's worth a bit of paper. Don't go and get it fixed, but not the trouble. Not to the needs a television crew watching there while you're putting a defect on everybody's windscreen. Yeah. But well, that's part of the. That's a big issue. Yeah. That goes into a new in a new parts of the submission. Yeah. Which the industry has to be discussed. Yeah. And it'll bring a lot of different opinions, but it's got to be discussed.
Well, I mean, that's what this inquiry is hopefully going to do.